Hi, my name's John Hartman from Durango Silver Company in Durango, Colorado. And today I'm going to show you how to make a simple pendant, and I'm also going to start with a couple of my tricks for you. So, number one, I've been asked this several times. What do I solder on? It's a problem for a lot of people. I use a solderite, 6x6 solderite board you can put this on granite or whatever you want. Probably don't want to be putting it on your bench. It might, it gets hot. So put it on something that can get hot. In Rio Grande's catalog, and this is basically where I just get all my tools and equipment. It's just so easy for silversmithing. Rio Grande Jeweler Supply. Their number's 1-800-545-6566, and call them and tell them you need a complete set of catalogs. They'll get them right in the mail that same day. Solderite board is number 502063. Okay, so in making a pendant, we need jump rings, okay? And I like, for most sizes, what we're gonna do today is we're gonna make a simple pendant, but one of the tricky things we're gonna do, fun, is to make a swinging bail, okay? Because I've been asked how to make bails. Okay, so I'm using about I think this is a 3/16 inch drill bit. I put the twist into my drill, and I'm going to make jump rings, okay? I'm using 18 gauge round silver wire, and I gotta find the end here. Here it is. And you certainly don't have to buy this much, but I put this in here in my drill, and let's see here. It's better, to tell you the truth, it's better not to use a drill. If you can find something or saw this off of the drill, I'm gonna waste some silver here, but I use it. Don't have no problem using it. But so I'm gonna bring this up here, and now I'm getting to, okay, so right here where the drill's smooth, see what I'm doing here? Okay, and now I've made the wire for the jump rings. Now I'm going to get the drill bit out of here, one way or another. My drill bit here that I just grabbed out of my toolbox has been chewed up a little bit from my drill, so sorry for the delay here. Try to use a nice piece of steel. Okay, so here's what you end up with, okay? And then I'm just going to cut this off here, just to make things simple. Okay, I'm going to get rid of this so it's out of our way. Okay, and then next what we do is we get our jeweler saw, okay, and we put a little bit of stuff on there to make it glide. Okay, and then this is a bench pin here, okay? And what you do, you can actually use a bench pin, but what I do is I hold them in my hand like this, and I just saw right through them. And see, I've made 3 jump rings there, okay? And what I did here I made them before, and I just straightened them out with my square pliers and got them round with my half round pliers. And then I have a handy dandy little polishing pin polisher, and I put all my jump rings in my pin polisher, and then I make several different sizes at one time. And you don't have to cut them all at one time, but I tend to do that, and then I polish them all and I put them in a box, and so they're all by size. Okay, so that's how you make the jump rings, okay? Next, to make your little balls, and in silversmithing you will use a lot of beads or balls or raindrops, whatever you call them. You use your scrap. Where's my tweezers? So you use your scrap sheet, just pieces of scrap sheet like this, and you take your shears and you cut them into little pieces. And a lot of people like cutting about the same size pieces. And you put them on a charcoal block. That's the easiest way to make jump rings, and they stay round. And then basically you just heat them up and they ball up and they turn round. Okay? There you go. That's how you make the raindrops. That's how the Navajos have made them in the history of time, and that's how I made them. But now I'm going to show you a trick. You buy, this is casting grain. You buy it from Rio Grande, sterling silver casting grain, and it comes in a bunch of balls. That's how they make it with their casting grain machine. Okay, and then what you do with these, you could sit there and you can pick out the ones that you like, you know, or in my case, what I've done is I bought this mill grain tool. It's not very expensive, and it comes with all these different sizes of circle of cutouts. Okay, and so what you do is you buy your raindrops, and you put them in your mill grain tool. You put one of your size of your circles in this mill grain tool. See, and put it right in there, and you put one side on, and then you dump the raindrops in here, and you shake this all about, and then you take it off, and then you there's going to be some in here that are too big. So then you can dump them out back in your casting grain, but ultimately then you loosen the bottom here, and you got all the same size raindrops. It's cool, and then you're not having to pick all the time or have your wife or your assistant or whatever sit there and pick out raindrops for you. They're done pretty much for you. There's a couple cool tricks for you. All right, next. Oh, let me show you. Here's what I do with my raindrops. I sort them all out into sizes, and I got a ton. I mean, I just do a ton at a time, all the way down to little tiny ones. So all different sizes. I figure out what size I use the most, and I make the most of that size. And I mark my mill grain tool. Okay, so for the pendant, Dylan wanted me to use this stone today, and beautiful stone. Okay, and this is a piece of shattuckite, and it's an elongated oval. And we're going to make a simple pendant, and then later on I'm going to show you more, harder to make pendants, and be happy to do it. But the first one is the simple one. I'm going to use today 1/8 inch tall by 26 gauge bezel wire from Rio Grande, okay? And I buy a lot at a time. This is 25 ounces or so. But you don't have to, they'll sell you any amount that you want. You can get thinner bezel wires, but take it from me, don't do it. You start with 26 gauge and always use 26 gauge or thicker if you want to do custom bezels. But no thinner than 26, and what you'll find if you use thinner than 26, you'll burn it up, and after you've done, especially when you're new in soldering, you will you tend to overheat, and when you go to set your stone, your bezel will crack and fall apart, and you'll be so upset with yourself. Another trick is never ever quench your pendant. When you're making your pendant, let it cool down most of the way before you cool it down the rest of the way to touch it. When you quench silver at certain times, if you got it a little bit too hot and you quench it, it'll crystallize also. Okay. So, another question I've been asked. What do you use for a block? You can use anything you want for a block. And I particularly like a piece of steel or a piece of granite. And I also got a piece of crystal. The gentleman saw, I got this at a machine shop about 50 years ago when I was a machinist. I don't know if you can get them anymore. Okay, the first thing, I like these shears. I don't know where they're at, but they're with the shears in Rio Grande. They're straight. And get the most expensive ones. I think they're $16, okay? And make sure that your bezel is square or pretty darn much square. And I'm going to go on my steel plate here today, and I'm going to wrap my 1/8 inch bezel around my stone, okay? And I'm going to come around here. I'm going to put it together here, and then I'm going to push it all around and make sure that I've got it tight. I'm going to mark it with my fingernail, and then you'll notice that inside where you push the bezels together, there's a tiny line there. And you can either follow the line. I put my bezel back so it's square, and I get my shears so they're square with the other side of the bezel, and I clip it off. Next I go back to my pendant, and I make sure I got just a little bit of extra space there. Just a little bit, like maybe a 64th to a 32nd overhang there, extra silver, okay? And this is to give yourself a little bit of room, so no chance of your stone being too big for the bezel. Okay, so next what we do is we flatten make sure both sides are flat with square pliers. I love these little guys, these little pliers. They're made in Pakistan, and they have the blue handles in Rio Grande, and they're great. They're called Wubbers. Wubbers. Okay, so now I'm going to get my bezel so it fits together. So I'm going to go past, and I'm going to line it up, and I'm going to fit this bezel so it fits really good. And so now I'm going to bend it down. I'm just going to sit here and play with it until I'm happy with the way it fits. Okay, and then I'm going to put it down like this. I used to stand them all up, but I don't anymore. Now I like laying them down like this. Okay, and now I use this Mighty Flux from Rio Grande, and it is number 504076. You can buy it in small amounts too. And here it is, and here's my handy dandy little brush here, and get some flux, and I'm going to put the flux on the bezel real good, nicely, and I'm going to make sure that bezel is just perfect, okay? And now I'm using 75% silver solder, okay, for the bezel. It's hard, it's a little bit harder silver, and I'm going to show you how to solder this, okay? You get I'm using it's called a Prestolite torch. It's a plumber's torch. All right, so here we go. So I'm coming on the back of this bezel, and I'm heating up right behind the seam, okay? And I'm getting in here so I can really see it, and I'm seeing the silver turn white. There we go. I got some silver. Okay, I got solder on it, and I got a little extra solder on there. And that doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. Just all you got to do is make sure you got that joint soldered. I don't usually get extra solder on there, but I'm maybe trying to hurry here. Okay, so next thing, oh, it does matter because we got to fit this bezel around the stone. So I'm gonna just sand this off, file this off real quick. Okay, so got the bezel, putting it around the stone, and then I'm gonna take my same handy dandy little square pliers, and I'm gonna go around and around the stone and get this thing to fit the stone real well. Okay, make sure when I soldered this bezel together, pretty much the whole bezel got heated up and annealed, but actually bezel wire is fine silver. It's 999 and it's real soft and pliable, so you don't usually have any trouble with your bezel. Okay, so now I'm gonna because this stone is large here, I'm gonna use 24 gauge sheet. And I'd say a pendant up to the size of a quarter or just a little bit bigger than a quarter, you can use 26. A size of a 50-cent piece, 24, up to from a quarter to a 50-cent piece, 24, and larger than that, 22 or even 20 gauge on a larger pendant. So I'm gonna find the silver that I cut several sheets of, okay? And I'm going to take my jump ring, and I'm going to make sure that I've got it stuck together just right. Okay, and I'm going to put my jump ring right there. I'm gonna give myself plenty of space here on the bottom. I'm gonna put my jump ring right there, and I'm gonna mark this sheet. Okay, so so that's the length of my sheet, and then you will have already cut the sheet to size there, and you can cut it any which way you want. You know, if you've got a big piece of sheet and you don't have a shear, I have a big shear, so I cut lots of sheet up, six by different sizes at a time, and I have a box full of them. So then I'm going to take these shears are nice, these Weiss shears, and they cut reasonably flat, so I don't bend my sheet up too much. Okay, so I cut the sheet there. Okay, and then I have an anvil, and you can use any anvil that you want. You don't need a big, huge anvil. I love that rawhide mallet right there. I love that mallet. All of us here at Durango Silver have these mallets. I bought them for everybody for Christmas one year. So, okay. So now we have the plate for this, the sheet for this, and now I'm going to take my dividers and I'm going to divide my plate in half for the jump ring. Okay, so I'm going to find center of the sheet. Okay, divide it down one way and then the other. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same on the back, because I'm going to stamp my logo in it, and I'm also going to stamp the 925 or sterling in it. On Durango Silver, we tell you where to get these stamps made for your logo. It's Signature Concepts in Hesperus, Colorado. Okay, great guy. He'll get your stamp right out, and they're very inexpensive for what he does. Very inexpensive. And so there I stamped my maker's name, and it says J. Hartman, Durango Silver, and 925 on it, which is sterling silver. Okay, so there's my plate, there's my signature on the back, and this is the side that we're going to solder on. So I'm going to clean this. This is steel wool, fine steel wool. getting just the oils off of it or any impurities. Okay, lay it on there, and see my signature is down below. I'm gonna take this bezel off of here, and let me give you another little tip here. This is Rio Stop Flow. Okay, it's great stuff, and a lot of people, especially when they're beginning, will get their silver too hot, and the solder will come out. That's why I use 75%, because it's harder, but the solder will come out of the seam. And so with this, you just paint your seam here, okay, on your bezel, and it'll help it from the solder coming out of your seam. Now, mug heater, and you can take and put your stone on there, your stone with your bezel on there for, if it's hot, it'll only take maybe a minute. If it's not, it'll take maybe 5 minutes to warm up or something like that. But you can heat that stop flow on your bezel, and so it's not watery. Okay, so I've been messing around with this. I'm just going to make sure it's still straight, and it is. Okay, all right, so now I'm going to take this Mighty Flux, and I'm going to flux that. Okay, and now I'm going to put my bezel on there, and I'm going to make sure the bezel is flat on the plate. Push down on it. Okay, and it is flat. You might see just a smidgen of light in there, but that's okay. When you're heating this up, and the solder will make the bezel come down to the silver if you've got the silver sanded good. And you got to make sure you have flux on everywhere you want the solder to flow. You got to have flux there. So look at, there's my center line, and I got it going right down the center of the jump ring. Okay, and now I got to make sure that this thing is lining up. Okay, jump ring is center. Okay, and then now I'm going to take a couple of my raindrops. Okay, and I'm going to put a raindrop on each side of the bezel. And this is where it really helps to have these already sized. I don't have to worry about picking out the sizes. Okay, so make sure everything's just the way I want it. Okay, another thing you can do right now, if you wanted, is to take this and put it over on your hot plate and let it warm up. Okay, and then it'll keep it from moving before you solder it. Now I'm using 65 solder. And this is a lot softer. This is a soft solder, soft silver solder they call it. Okay, and so this melts at a much lower temperature. So your bezel's at a high temperature solder, 75, and this is at 65. So it's so now I'm going to solder this, and my seam is right over here. Okay. I'm heating that up with my torch here. And I'm going to heat this side up, heat the flux up on this side first, okay, and then up there last, okay. All right. So now look at, I've got my solder, my bezel. It's actually semi-welded to the plate with flux, okay. So now, if I was just to heat one area, I could think that the silver might expand, so and change its shape. So what I want to do now is I want to go around this this bezel here and this table, and I'm going to come in on it, okay? And I'm going to gently heat it up. Now, because I've done this a real lot, I can do this very fast, and I'm just going slow now. And when you get the hang of it, you'll go faster too. Okay, so first thing you're going to see is your flux crystallize and start bubbling, and then it's going to turn brownish color. Okay, and as this heats up, and now we're staying away from the seam in the bezel. Okay, I'm going to start soldering on the opposite side of the seam. And another trick might be you might want to start soldering your jumper in here first, okay? And because then you'll know your plate is hot enough to keep soldering. Okay, so gently soldering this up, heating this up. Okay, it's approaching getting ready here. And then just put your solder in here, inside a little. Okay. All right. So I'm touching the bezel, and you can solder inside or outside. And what you want to do is go around the bezel with your solder. Okay. Okay. You can use sheet solder too if you feel uncomfortable using this, but I think you can do this. A little solder on the raindrop. A little solder everywhere. Okay, so now I'm going to take my tweezers. I'm going to look, make sure I've got solder all the way around. I'm going to use my torch, and I'm going to come around the outside of this bezel to make sure I drop all the solder to the outside edge of the bezel. Okay, solder follows heat. Then I'm going to come over here and then make sure I have these raindrops soldered on here good. Okay, got solder all the way around my jump ring. Bingo, it's soldered. One other little trick. Before you do this, if you're having problems with the jump rings getting soldered all the way around, make sure you get your jump rings just tight together and perfect. Okay, get yourself some crocus cloth, or this is wet dry 220. Put your jump ring on there and sand a flat edge on the bottom. You can saw around it if you want, or you can take your shears like I do and cut around it. And now a lot of people will take, before they cut around this, they'll pickle this, okay? With Sparex. And then a lot of Navajos really, they've been trained since the beginning of their making silver to always save your scraps, save all the silver. Well, I find that silver's fairly inexpensive, and so if I waste a little bit of silver, oh well. That's John Hartman. But I try to save as much as I can. But see how nicely these shears cut, so nice, and okay. So got this cut out, and I get a little burr here. I'm going to bring it up here. Okay, and I'm going to go drill a little hole in here with my drill press. You can use whatever you want to drill a hole. You can even use your little drill here, your cordless drill, or whatever you want. I have a little drill press, and you just need a tiny little hole in here. Okay, so here's my drill press, and see, you can see it's a really tiny drill bit. And I'm just going to drill a hole in here inside, and sheet. Okay, so we got a little hole. Okay, now I'm going to use my saw with the double-aught blade in it. And I'm going to string this saw blade in through the hole in the pendant. Okay. Okay, put a little bit of stuff on here. And, yep, my saw blade's loose. What you do is you put the saw against your chest, push it, and tighten it. Okay, and so go in here, and I'm going to saw my inside my ring, jump ring out. Okay, so now we got a hole in there. Okay, next I have a micro motor with a diamond bit in it, round, and I'm going to go in here. You can do this with this, or you can use a round or a half round file. And I'm just going to take the balance of silver out of this, make it nice and round and smooth. Okay, then I'm going to come on the back side, and then there's a burr on here. I'm going to take the burr off. Okay, so there we go. Now I'm going to show you my other trick, and not many silversmiths would show you this trick. This is my handy dandy 42-inch built sander that I used to use when I was a machinist. I've had this for 50 years, and they sell them at Harbor Freight, maybe a little different, but same. And I'm going to use my little block here so I can get up high. Got a really nice LED 11,000 lumens that I got from Home Depot for $99, so I can really see what I'm doing. And I don't have much to sand here, but I'm gonna really kind of get it nice and finished up here with my handy dandy sander. And I got a thing of water here in case it gets too hot for my hands. Okay. I'm gonna go around here. Let's be very careful not to over sand. Takes too much metal off here. I'm just sanding nearly up to the bezel. And you could even do this if you use a saw to trim your pendant, to go around and cut the silver out. Especially when you're new, your saw might walk on you, and you might have little pieces that you might end up having to really file a long time for. Okay, so here we are. And we got a pendant. Okay, so I'm going to go to my next step. And this doesn't necessarily have to be you, but this is what I do, okay? I have a micro motor here, and they sell them. They're very inexpensive on eBay. And I use different tips and different sanding units. And I have all these sanding wheels. And I have all these different types of tips that I bought over the years that I use, okay? And so now that I sanded there, now I'm going to finish with my sometime in another video I'll tell you the exact wheels that I'm using. I've kind of found ones that I really like, but I haven't prepared myself to tell you today, and so I'm not going to make this video take a long time while I'm hunting for the item number. But I've got some. I will make some more videos. John is telling me everybody's loving these videos, so I will make more of them for you. I don't mind showing you my 47 years of being a silver and goldsmith. I found a lot of tricks. Okay, here we go. This is a triangle file here, and right here where that raindrop is, I get a nice sharp and round fit here. Okay, there we go. Now, I don't think I need to tell you guys about pickling and buffing because we've done that already. But from here, I'm gonna pickle this. I'm gonna just put it in there for 10, 15 minutes until it turns white, okay? And that takes all the flux and dirt and grime and everything off here, and it takes the first level of fire skill off this silver, okay? Okay, so I pickled the pendant, turned white, nice and clean. Okay, so now we're gonna make the bail, okay? So I've already cut this. I have this, handy for myself because I make a lot of pendants. But I'm making the bail out of 20, this bail out of 22 gauge. You can make it out of 20 if you want it a little heavier, but 22 is fine. It's 1.5 inches long, okay? And then we're going to take and we're going to figure out how wide do we want a bail here, okay? And I'm saying for this pendant, I want it about that wide. It's not critical, but you get to know these things after a while. So I'm going to cut it 1.5 inches by the width that I want my bail, okay? Like that, okay? Then I'm going to take my hand shears here. And I'm going to cut it, okay? Then I'm going to flatten it on my anvil. Okay, now I'm going to take my dividers once again, and I am going to divide this so I have. So what I did is I've got about a little less than 1/8 inch here in the center, 2 lines, creating a little less than 1/8 inch. And then I'm going to find out where the center of this pendant is. So I'm going to go this way. That's telling me where my center is here, this way. Okay. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my shears and I'm going to cut from my line, one of my lines here, right to the center. Okay, like that. Then turn it around. Cut it like that. And I'm going to flatten it out again. Okay, and now I'm going to cut the other sides. So I'm going to cut from the center down, and I'm going to come over here, the other side, and cut from the center down, and then I'm going to flatten this and show you what we got. Okay, so here we've got it like a diamond, okay? And we got points right there on both sides, so I'm going to take my Dremel, or you could take a file, and I'm going to round it. Like that, see? On both sides. Okay. just kind of making these edges a little nicer so when I go to buff it, it'll be real easy. Have a couple little burrs here. Okay, so now I'm going to take my half round pliers. Okay, and where are they? Here they are. Okay, so my half round pliers, there's different half round pliers that you can get, but you can see the bottom here is half round and the top is square. Okay, and I'm going to go to the center here, and I'm going to come out from the center a little ways, and I'm going to bend this. Okay, then I turned it around and I'm bending it the other direction. Okay, now you can take your half round pliers, and like I said, there's different half round pliers. Here's another pair of half round pliers, small. And here's another pair of half round pliers, medium. And see, these are the ones I was using. Okay, so there's different half round pliers that you can get. But what you want to do is you kind of want to figure out, okay, how big of a chain do I want to go through here? And you just kind of work your bail around, okay? And so now I'm also going to figure out where'd my pendant go, right here, how long I want it, okay? So now at this point, well, I think that's great. That's about the right size. Okay, so now I'm going to take my little square pliers that I showed you with the blue handles. What did I do with them? Okay, right here. And I have one flat side, see there? That I made one side a little longer. And I didn't intentionally do that, incidentally. It just happened that way. But that's great. And then I'm gonna bend this thing up here like this. And so now, I don't know if you can see that, but I've got a bail here. And it's very uniform, okay? Now I'm gonna take this bail and I'm gonna put the part where it bends down, I'm gonna have on the front side. So I want the solder seam to be on the back side, see? So it's on the back side of the pendant, okay? I'm going to bend this together, fit it nicely. Okay. Now this is a GRS here that I have, and it has these nice tongs attached, or you can use whatever you want. You can get a set of tongs like this. That works fine too. But the idea here is to get the pendant on the opposite side of the seam and adjust the seam so you're just getting the seam soldered, not getting any solder over here on your pendant. Now, again, you could use the stop flow here and coat this, the loop of your pendant, so if any solder did come around, if you're new at this, any solder did come around, it wouldn't stick that together. But I don't have to do that. Another thing to note is that just get flux, don't get too much flux here on your piece. Just get flux where you want the solder to go. And the solder won't have a tendency to spread anywhere other than where the flux is, okay? And so, one other thing I didn't mention is I like the real fine, it's the thinnest wire solder you can get is what I like, okay, to work with. Rio has two different thicknesses. Okay, heating the bail up. I'm heating the fat end of the bail first, and then I'll come up here, okay, and heating up here, and I got it, okay? All right, I know that seems quick and easy, and it might be a little harder than that for you, but practice makes perfect. Okay, we're good. Okay, so we got the bail on the pendant, and there we go. There it is. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pickle this, and I'm going to buff it, and we're going to set the stone, and I'm going to show you the finished piece. Okay, I pickled it, then I buffed it with bobbing compound, and now it's ready to set the stone. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm fitting the stone in there, and I'm kind of getting an idea of how much sawdust. And you can also use different pieces of cardboard or whatever you want to set your stones. Some people like using cardboard. I particularly find it easy to use sawdust, jeweler's sawdust. Okay, so I get it in there approximately where I want it. Put the stone in. Now, this side is a little lower here. So I'm going to just gently hold this side and tap that sawdust to come up, bring it up there. Now, looking down the sides, okay, that side's even. Okay, now that I got it even, I'm going to look for a gap in the side of my bezel. See one right here? And I'm going to put some super glue, fine super glue. I like Starbond is good for a general super glue, and I'm going to put in a fair amount. I'm going to let it go down in there on that side, and I'm going to put a fair amount. Let it go down there on that side. Okay. Now I'm going to take my burnisher, and I'm going to carefully go all the way around this, holding the stone in nice and tight with one finger and the thumb. Go around it. And even if you get this nice and tight around one time, an old Navajo told me, don't settle there. You go around it at least 2 times, and I go around it 3. So I just take his advice. I'll go around the bezel 3 times. And you can go around it in different ways here. Round those corners real nice. One last time. Now I know I've got a real smooth edge on my bezel. Look at it real good. Make sure it's nice, smooth edge all the way around. Last thing I'll do is I'll put just a little bit more super glue down the edge. So never is this stone going to ever have a chance of coming out. And it's not going to wiggle later on down the road 10 years or so. It's always going to be in there tight. Another super glue that I like is Paleo Bond. So here we go. Here's the pendant. It's almost done. Now, last thing I'm going to do is I have this stuff. It's called Winox here. And I'm going to take my Winox and I'm going to paint all the recessed areas like inside the bale. Winox you can get from Thunderbird Supply in Gallup, New Mexico. And in all the little areas here. And then I'm also going to put it in my logo. So my logo is blackened underneath, okay? All right, so basically all I'm going to do here, I'll put it in water to deactivate the Winox. So all I'm going to do here now is I'm going to buff this with Zam from Rio Grande. And all this black will come off. It'll be shiny as heck. And then what we like to do, what Natarika taught me, was to put it after you use Zam, put it in a bowl of warm water with a Joy soap, and then use a fine toothbrush and just scrub it down real nice and get all the excess Zam off here, and then wipe it real gently with a nice paper towel, and it'll come out very, very nice. So here it is. Thank you for watching our video. This is John Hartman from Durango Silver. I hope you look at the rest of our videos and give us some good feedback. Like us, please. Thank you.